you guys let me know if you enjoyed this, and I will do a part 2 of reading this book. I'll let you know if I enjoy it too, because I have not read any of this, so this will be my first impressions. Before we get started, I just want you to know that on my Instagram, you guys can see a lot more content from me besides just ASMR. And if you're interested in following me, it's the same as my channel name, Natashawhispersasmr. You can find it in the description as well. And I know I'm getting off track, so if you want to skip this part and get to the poetry, feel free. But I just wanted to show you guys this. I've been doing lots of sporadic shopping, especially Christmas shopping mostly. But I did a mini Target haul, mini, very tiny, on my Instagram. So again, go follow that if you want to see that. It's this antibacterial hand spray from Bath and Body Works. It literally smells so good, and a lot of Purells smell really, really bad, and so I tend to shy away from them and not want to use Purell because it stinks. But this is really quick and easy. You just spray it on your hands, it dries, and I got it in pineapple coconut because the girl at the beginning of the store sprayed it on my hands and I couldn't get over how amazing it smelled. Smell. It's so nice. This is not sponsored. I'm just letting you know, since Purell smells like crap and we have to use it a lot. Okay, anyway, let's get into finally reading. I find that the sound of pages turning is so nostalgic and relaxing because it reminds me of when I was in elementary school and when teachers used to actually read us books. And it begins by saying, "For the arms that hold me." You know, usually it says for someone. My heart woke me crying last night. How can I help? I begged. My heart said, "Write the book." And then we have this big title page that says, "The Hurting." Okay, first I'm actually going to read you the back of the book so you can kind of get an idea of the kind of poetry we're going to be reading. This is the journey of surviving through poetry. This is the blood, sweat, tears of 21 years. This is my heart in your hands. This is the hurting, the loving, the breaking, the healing. I really wish I could say the author's name, but I cannot, so here it is. Okay. The first official poem. How is it so easy for you to be kind to people, he asked. Milk and honey dripped from my lips as I answered, because people have not been kind to me. How am I already touched by the first poem? I mean, there's so much meaning to this. It's basically explaining how this person completely understands what it feels like to be treated awfully. And that's why they're so kind to everybody else. And that's beautiful. He was supposed to be the first male love of your life. You still search for him everywhere. And then it has a little dash and it says father. You were so afraid of my voice, I decided to be afraid of it too. There's a picture of a woman with a hand covering her mouth. She was a rose in the hands of those who had no intention of keeping her. Every time you tell your daughter, you yell at her. Out of love, you teach her to confuse anger with kindness, which seems like a good idea till she grows up to trust men who hurt her, because they look so much like you, to fathers with daughters. was just talking about this with my mom the other day, that we accept the love we think we deserve. So if we're treated kindly throughout our lives, we're taught to accept kind love. We're taught that we deserve that kind of love. But if we're treated bad and we're insecure, then we accept abuse because that's all we think that we deserve. Unfortunately, a lot of beautiful women and men don't understand they're capable of much more and they deserve much more. So if you ever find yourself in a relationship where you're not happy, where you're being hurt, I want you to know that you're beautiful, you're wonderful, and you are bright, and you deserve everything. You deserve real connection. I'm skipping over a couple poems that are too graphic. I don't want to put on to my channel. There is no bigger illusion in the world than the idea that a woman will bring dishonor into a home if she tries to keep her heart and her body safe. You have sadness living in places sadness shouldn't live. A lot of these are like one sentence killers, like it's one sentence but your heartstrings are pulled. A daughter should not have to beg her father for a relationship. There seems to be a theme going with these poems. Trying to convince myself I am allowed to take up space is like writing with my left hand when I was born to use my right. The idea of shrinking in hereditary. Okay, I'm excited for this one. You tell me to quiet down, 'cause my opinions make me less beautiful, but I was not made with a fire in my belly so I could be put out. I was not made with a lightness on my tongue so I could be easy to swallow. Sorry. I was made heavy, half blade and half silk, difficult to forget and not easy for the mind to follow. I find oftentimes in today's society, men think that shutting women down is funny. Men think that when women demand rights, that it's comical for some reason, that we're over dramatic when they have never experienced what a woman has experienced. It baffles me that they take something so serious and break it down because they have zero understanding of what it's like to be a woman in the world. I have a theory, not my personal theory, that we're in hell. You know, the world beats down the most beautiful things, which is women. The world beats down gay people. The world beats down anything unique. It's ridiculous. I just hope that there's good people out there with everything going on in the world. Definitely doubting a lot of things, but I really just hope we can go in a different direction and start building ourselves up more. I had another point to make, but I can't remember what it was. I remember explaining to someone how I really wanted to go on a walk, but I was so uncomfortable because the last time I did, I was beeped at and followed that I just went home and locked the door because I was scared and uncomfortable, and it left me with a bitter feeling for the rest of the night. I said I was scared to go on a walk because I didn't want to be kidnapped, and I was immediately shut down. And I 100% stood up for myself and explained, a man has no idea what it's like to go on a walk and feel as though the car that's slowing down next to you is going to grab you and do horrendous things to you. That feeling's ridiculous, and I've had to have it since I was old enough to understand. So anyway, I'll get back to reading poetry. Your mother is in the collapse in on myself. I am your daughter. I know the small talk is the only way you know how to tell me you love me, 'cause it is the only way I know how to tell you. The thing about having an alcoholic parent is an alcoholic parent does not exist. Simply an alcoholic who cannot stay sober long enough to raise their kids. I can't tell if my mother is terrified or in love with my father. At all. It all looks the same. I flinch when you touch me. I fear it is him. Okay, so that first little blurb that I read to you guys, not blurb, but a group of poems, was called The Hurting. And now we have The Loving, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more blissful. Although the deep poems are good, very good. When my mother was pregnant with her second child, I was 4. I pointed at her swollen belly, confused at how my mother had gotten so big in such a little time. My father scooped me in his tree-trunk arms and said the closest thing to God on this earth is a woman's body. It's where life comes from, and to have a grown man tell me something so powerful at such a young age changed me to see the entire universe rested at my mother's feet. I struggle so deeply to understand how someone can pour their entire soul, blood, and energy into someone without wanting anything in return. I will have to wait till I'm a mother. No, it won't be love at first sight when we meet. It'll be love at first remembrance, 'cause I've seen you in my mother's eyes when she tells me to marry the type of man I'd want to raise my son to be like. Every revolution starts and ends with his lips. What am I to you, he asks. I put my hands in his lap and whisper, you are every hope I've ever had in human form. My favorite thing about you is your smell. You smell like earth, herbs, gardens, a little more human than the rest of us. I know I should grumble for better reasons, but have you seen that boy? He brings the sun to its knees every night. There's a picture of the sun with the birds. You are the faint line between faith and blindly waiting. Letter to my future lover, sorry. Nothing is safer than the sound of you reading out loud to me. The perfect date as I read out loud to you guys. Isn't that funny? He placed his hands on my mind before reaching for my waist, my hips, or my lips. He didn't call me beautiful first. He called me exquisite. I am learning how to love him by loving myself. Very important. You can't love anyone else until you love you. At least healthily. He says, I am sorry I am not an easy person to want. I look at him surprised. Who said I wanted easy? I don't crave easy. I crave difficult. asks me what I do. I tell him I work for a small company that makes packaging. He stops me mid-sentence. No, not what you do to pay the bills. What drives you crazy? What keeps you up at night? I tell him I write. He asks me to show him something. I take the tips of my fingers, place them inside his forearm, and graze them down his wrist. Goosebumps rise to the surface. I see his mouth clench, muscles tighten, his eyes pour into mine as though I'm the reason for making them blink. I break gaze just as he inches toward me. I step back. So that's what you